Hi, I am Charlie from Charlie B Books, and I'm here today with Rebecca from Rebecca's Library on Bookstagram. And we're going to talk today about books and Bookstagram and their influence on people's lives. So I guess my first question is sort of what got you into reading and what are your favorite books?
My mom really likes to read, so I guess she always just put that shared that love of reading with me when I was younger. She always tells a story about how when I was 3 years old, I memorized like a little booklet about Cinderella, so I would just go around reading it, but I just knew it by heart.
You.
Um, my favorite books growing up, what really got me into reading was the Harry Potter series. I fell in love with fantasy, everything, and it just grew from there.
Yeah. What is your favorite Harry Potter character then?
Oh, don't do this to me. Oh, I guess like I really liked Luna Lovegood.
Yeah,
I feel like I was the only kid in my grade who like loved to read like that, and I kind of just felt like an outsider like her. But reading the books, watching the movies, it showed me that like, wow, you can do whatever you want and still be a really great person, still do good things for the world. I don't know.
exactly.
I think she's great.
Yeah, she was my favorite too, actually. What house are you?
Well, I'm a Ravenclaw for sure.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I've done every single online quiz that there is, and I've always gotten a Ravenclaw.
Fair enough. How have your reading tastes changed in the last, like, kind of few years from when you've been a kid to kind of now?
Well, when I was younger, I used to read a lot of fantasy, not a lot of thrillers, but those books for kids that are like little mysteries that you have to solve. I've never actually read any Nancy Drew novels, but kind of similar to that.
Okay.
Um, when I was in like elementary school, I always read books from the Scholastic Book Fair. I remember one that was called like The Chocolate Touch, about this kid who ate a lot of chocolate and he was so selfish with it that everything he touched became chocolate.
Brilliant.
And it was so good. Like I would read it again right now. But as I've grown older, I kind of had like a huge gap in my life, like years and years where I didn't read a single thing. Like I would never pick up a book just because I don't know, I got really into watching TV shows instead. Um, but I started back during the pandemic. My country, I'm from Panama. We had a huge lockdown. We couldn't leave our apartments for months at a time. And I read Six of Crows, the whole like Grishaverse universe series. I read the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I read Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. I read so many things and it just like catapulted into where I am today. So more of what I read right now is a lot of romance, which I was really against as a kid. You know those girls that are like, I hate pink. I'm
Yeah.
not a girly girl. That was me. That was me. And now I'll be reading a romance book like,
Yeah, you can't. They're just
yeah,
so cute.
so good. It's so good. Like I read things right now and I look back and I was like, wow, you were really stupid to avoid this just to be cool. Like, who cares? Read whatever you want. But
Exactly.
yeah, most of what I'm reading right now is romance fantasy. Just romance with a bit of everything.
So you mentioned that like the lockdown. So do you feel like reading sort of helped you get through that, like kind of allowed you to escape during the pandemic, kind of helped your mental health maybe?
I If I'm being very serious, I don't know. I mean, I have a big family. During the pandemic, I lived at home with my parents and my two younger siblings and a dog and a cat. So it's like I was never bored because we were all trapped in our apartment together because we live in apartments, not houses. So it's not like you
Okay.
could go to your backyard, you could go on a little run, you couldn't do anything. Like I did not step foot in an elevator for months. So I think that being surrounded by so many people helped me a lot with my mental health, but there was nothing else to do. Like, yes, we would play um like board games at night, or we would spend more time together, we would watch movies or something, but at some point it's just so repetitive that like I have a huge bookshelf in my room, so I don't know, one day I just picked up a book. I was like, let's read this again. I think it was the Twilight series. I
Oh,
was like, you
I
know
love
what,
the
I watched the
Twilight
movies when I was
series.
pick it up. I read because it was right before the I don't know what the name of it is, Midnight Sun,
Yeah, that's
the
the
book
new
from
one.
his point of view with it was right before that, and I was like, you know what, let me read the Twilight series. If I like it, I'll read the other one. I finished all 4 or 5 books in 4 days, like a whole weekend. That's it.
Wow.
And ever since then, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep reading. I have nothing else to do. It was
You
great
Edward
though.
or Jacob?
Edward.
100%.
100%. Like I like Jacob in the first the movies and the books are kind of mixed in my head. So I like Jacob in the first movie where he's all cute and nice, but after that, it's like, back off.
Yeah,
We don't
gets
like
a bit
you anymore.
possessive.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that one scene, it irks me so much. That one scene where he kisses Bella without her permission, and his dad's like, "Good for you." Like that's not how it would have happened.
No,
But
100%.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, Twilight was a huge phenomenon, like back in, I don't know when it was first released, but it was like early 2010s, I think.
I
I don't know
think
if it was
so.
before that. But so I've seen a lot of girls on like Bookstagram stuff having like book boyfriends and like favorite characters. Obviously, I know you're in a relationship, so you might not have quite the same reaction as a lot of people. But do you find that you have book boyfriends that you find yourself attached to, like comfort characters?
So I see people on Bookstagram say like, "Oh, he's my book boyfriend," and they kind of, I don't want to say they get possessive over it, but they kind of like stake a personal claim. A lot of people can do this with one character, obviously, like Aaron Warner are all the popular ones. But people kind of get like, yeah, he's my book boyfriend. And they like have this whole idea in their minds of how this character is. When I talk about book boyfriends on my page, I don't see it that way. I see them as book boyfriends, like boyfriends that are in books for those characters.
Yeah.
They do have a special place in my heart, obviously, but it's not quite as like personal or possessive. It's just a character that I think like, wow, that's a really great man that was written.
Yeah.
But it's 100%. Nothing like, oh my God, you're real? Nah, it doesn't get like that for me. But I do have my little list of the ones that I like more than others.
Yeah. You really liked Atlas Corrigan, didn't you?
I think I'm actually really conflicted about this because on the one hand, who didn't like him? But on the other hand, like after I read the second book, it kind of got weird because I don't know, I didn't like the writing. I talked about it on my page. I don't, that's what I was about to say. Like, I don't want to say anything to spoil it, but
I'm not going to. I didn't like the first one.
You see, that's what I mean. Like the first one was, every other man in that book was so bad that anyone who would have played Atlas, anyone who would have been Atlas would have been such a good person in comparison. So that's what I'm thinking. Like looking back, I don't know the book by heart, but looking back, I'll think about it and be like, was he actually that great? Or was she just, a childhood friend, a comfort that she had during tough times? And then I read the second book and it's just like this is a minor spoiler, but he bought a house because he thought like, oh, this girl would like the backyard, but they hadn't spoken in years. And so on the one hand, you could see that as cute, but that's also kind of weird. So yes, I love Atlas, but I don't want to delve too deep into it.
No, fair enough. Yeah, you don't want to get attacked by a Bookstagram community.
Exactly. No, that's also really hard. I don't know, like I said, people stake personal claims on these characters, and it's like if you talk badly about him or them or anyone, you can't have your own opinion without being attacked sometimes.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the comments you've had on your page so far. You've had a couple of quite harsh, usually men, having a go at you for like romance books and stuff, and I just don't understand it. But how do you kind of cope with those, and how would you advise other people to cope with stuff like that?
It's just so funny. It's so funny to me because so I was bullied in elementary, middle school for like partly for reading. And so it's like, wow, I'm a grown woman being bullied by a grown man over something like who doesn't even know me over something that makes me happy. Like who tries to do that? Like I just find it so funny. And I see it as entertainment, like free entertainment for me. I don't know. I remember this one guy commented like, yeah, like I posted about a book and I was like, you guys should really read it. Like it's a good read. And he was like, I'm not gonna read it. Okay. Want a prize? Like, what do you want me to do about that? I don't know. It's just funny to me. I think that a lot of people get bullied or bothered or anything for reading, or like I said before, like, oh, I didn't read romance because I thought it was cringy, but like read whatever you want. No, like what is anyone else's opinion about you having a nice hobby? Why should that take away from your enjoyment? I don't know. But it's funny. I find it funny.
Yeah, thankfully at least you don't take it personally.
Yeah. Why would I? It's about reading. Everyone reads. It's not like I invented it. Why should I be offended?
Love that.
It's just It's just really, like, I can't give you a concrete answer without saying that it's just really funny to me how some people take it so seriously. It's like, just ignore them. Like, okay, thank you for your comment, sir. Have a
So sort of how did you come on to Bookstagram? Because I know we joined, I think you were a month or so before me, but yeah, how did you kind of find the community beforehand and once you were in it? And obviously your followers have built crazily.
Yeah, I know. I'm so in shock. I obviously knew about Bookstagram before. Like I said, like I started reading a lot, so I started following a lot of accounts that, you know, give you recommendations or anything like that. And I kind of realized that like I also want to write. I want to get into writing, and partly what you need for that is a platform. So I thought that Bookstagram would be a great idea to start. That's honestly one of the main reasons why I started it. But I also really love like what a big part of my life it is, because I can't go somewhere and see a bookstore and not going to take pictures and share and see what's there. And I've gotten a bunch of friends to start reading too. Like I've given them such great recommendations in person, and they love it. And it's just like so rewarding to see more people read, because it's not something popular to other people. I don't get it either, but you know, I don't know. I like the community. I think it's great. But if I'm being honest, I only started it because I wanted to have a platform for myself for the future. But now that I have it, how great it is, I'm actually really glad that I started it, regardless of the reason.
So I know you're taking some creative writing classes at your university. So do you write in any specific genre, or are you just starting out on your journey, or have you been writing for years?
I haven't been writing for years. I was one of those girls that like had a whole idea for a trilogy when they were 12 and they started writing it and then they stopped and never continued it. I am writing some things right now. I'm kind of working on, I don't know if it's gonna be like a duet or a trilogy about kind of like light sci-fi romance, but like very, very light. I'm still not sure where I want to take it. And I also came up with this idea about fantasy, kind of like inspired by the Midnight Library and Addie LaRue. But I have like not a lot written. Like I can't give you like a blurb or anything about it, because I still don't know how I'm taking everything. But I think that if I do write things, I think I'm mainly going to focus on things that have romance, whether it's like the main focus of the story or just a little bit.
But you said, so romance kind of your main genre now. I know your profile says you like smart books, and obviously some of them are like to the complete extreme. As a writer, I find it really hard to write those scenes and for it to be good. Like it's usually just quite embarrassing and a bit cringy. So because there's a whole side of Bookstagram that love it.
I feel the same way. I haven't really tried writing a lot of it. I think that I think I have like a scene and a half maybe with smut, and I'll be writing it and I'll write something, I'll be like, ooh, and just erase it, like type back. But I also feel like, I mean, this is kind of like unofficial advice. I just take from what I've read.
Yeah.
You know, like what is something that I've seen a lot in a lot of books that I've read, maybe I'll include it, maybe I won't. But like that's where I get, I don't know if it's inspiration or like but that's where I get my ideas from for that. I still haven't had anyone read those scenes, so I don't know if it's working or not, but
are you sharing your work because it is online at the moment at all, like anywhere other than?
I'm not sharing any of my work online. No, I'm not sharing my work online. I'm still kind of struggling with that, with sharing my things with other people. One of my classes, we actually had to turn in a couple of scenes for an assignment, and that's the first time that I actually shared it with other people who don't really know me, who might give me good feedback. So I'm excited about that, and it gets easier. You know, the more you share it, the easier it gets to continue sharing it. It's still nerve-wracking, especially if you're gonna write smut, because that's something that a lot of people can judge you for, especially if you want to write dark romance. But you know, if it's something that you really want to do, you just have to do it. You know, do it for yourself.
100%. Yeah. So you're doing a marketing degree, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm doing marketing advertising.
Have you felt that that's sort of helped with Bookstagram and how to promote, or is it just kind of reading popular books, or?
I think I haven't actually like done any paid advertising on Instagram for my account. I'm trying to not spend any money on it except for giveaways that I've done. I do like I have noticed that a huge part of Bookstagram is reading popular books because that's how you get shares, that's how you get likes. Like, oh, I read this book, I liked it, comment. I think my friend should read it. She doesn't want to read it. Look, someone else has read it, share it. But when I first started, I posted whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Like the books that were close to my heart, the books that like Six of Crows, I love those books. They're very sad, very like not very sad that will make you cry, like bawl your eyes out, but the backstories of every single character, they're all so sad and they're so like near and dear to my heart, which is kind of concerning. But I posted about those, and I thought that the reel that I made, I think it was my first reel with the corn song from the It's Corn Kid.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be a huge hit, and I was so excited because they were popular books. It was a popular song. I thought it was funny. A lot of people loved it. I don't even think I got like 100 likes or something. But I posted it, and it's what I wanted to post. And to this day, like I'll read books that I want to read, but most of my recommendations do come from Bookstagram. I don't know. I don't think there's one way to have an account, you know? I think that before I started it, I actually reached out to another popular Bookstagram account, and one of the things that they said was like, post what you would like to see.
Yeah.
And so I started posting quotes because I'm a person who has like a huge notes app on my phone. I'm actually gonna pull it up right now. I don't know if it'll be visible on camera, but I have this book quotes.
Yeah.
And it's just huge of quotes and quotes and quotes and quotes and quotes and quotes. Like it keeps going. And so I started posting quotes, and I think I'm doing good.
Yeah. Yeah, you suddenly you went from like something like 700, didn't you, to like 5,000 in literally like 2 months or whatever.
No, it's been kind of did the math because I was kind of in shock. I was like, there's no way this is real. I on average have gained like 1,000 followers per month since I started. It's been 5 months, which is insane. One of the things that kind of like propelled me to this is I posted about Atlas Corrigan.
Yeah.
And everyone went crazy over that reel, and I was like, wow, this is the key to success apparently. But I try not to make my page only one thing, because as much as I do want to grow and as much as I do want to have more followers and more like of an engagement and more of a community where we talk about books, Atlas Corrigan is not my like number one book boyfriend, so to speak. You know, it's not a book that I love. And so obviously I don't want to make my page just like Colleen Hoover fan club.
No.
Like I'll post it every now and then because it's still something that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not one of those like Colleen Hoover fans that are like, oh my God, she's the best. You have to do it. It's just, she's there. She's a good author. That's okay.
Yeah, 100%. So do you have a favorite at the moment, or is that a bit of a hard question?
A favorite book boyfriend? I feel like I have like a list. I think from books I can choose one. So like from the A Court of Thorns and Roses series.
Yes.
Out of, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I say Rysand and
yeah,
Reese.
that's what I would say.
I say it like that even though I know it's different. Out of him, Cassian, and Azriel, I love Azriel even though we haven't seen much of him. Like he's my favorite of the three. I don't know, I feel like of the Made Men series by Daniel Laurie, my favorite is Nicolas Russo. But I don't have like one book boyfriend that I love above everyone.
No. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's really hard to pick.
I don't know. I feel like there's too many books and too many people to choose from to have just one.
Yeah. So your sister has a Bookstagram account. Do you find that sharing books with her makes it easier to then communicate with the BookTok community because you have each other to kind of bounce off of?
That's actually a really good question. The answer is it's yes and no. The thing is, we read very different books. Like I read a lot of romance, and she's been reading a lot of historical fiction. I'm actually not sure what she's been reading, but she's been reading a lot of things that are not exactly romance. And she's the one who actually recommended to me It Ends With Us. She read it first, and she sent me like a 6-minute voice message. And I was like, okay, I'll read it, and then I'll listen to it, and then I'll send you my thoughts. So No, because we don't exactly have the same tastes, but yes, because I'll still tell her about the books I read, especially if I know she's not going to read them. I can go more into detail and spoil it to her, and she doesn't care. It helps me gets my thoughts in order.
Yeah.
But it's very hard when, for example, I read People We Meet on Vacation, didn't like it, did not like it at all. It's
that
Friends
Emily
to
Henry.
Lovers. Yeah, it's Friends. It's a good story. I just did not enjoy it at all. And so I was telling her about it. I was like, oh, it's Friends to Lovers. And she's like, oh my God, I love it. And I was like, and then I go, oh, it's a second chance friendship romance. And she's like, oh my God, that's so good. And it's like, girl, you need better taste. No offense to anyone. But I'll be telling her about things I don't like, and she loves it. We did an annotated book exchange. I still haven't read the one she got me, and I feel so bad, but it happens. And I read the cheat, and I sent it to her, and I didn't like it. I rated it 2 stars, and she loved it because it was Friends to Lovers, because it was this and that. Like, we have very different tastes, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
No, exactly.
It's a mixed answer.
Yeah, it's quite nice to, I find I've only had one thing on Bookstagram where I ended up reading the same book as someone completely accidentally, but we were about the same pace. So we were like texting each other updates of it at the same time. Have you done, is it read-alongs?
I did one time with an account that is no longer active. I actually don't know what happened. She just stopped logging in and replying. But we read the Shatter Me series, and we said, like, okay, let's read until chapter 20. Let's read until blank. But we both she was also living in England, so our schedules were flipped, and we were both so into the books, and that I would just read and move past the point we said. And then when it stopped, I would send her a message. I'd be like, hey, I'm at this point. You have no idea what just happened. Let me when you get here and we can talk about it. But then we would just like pass each other reading and just go back and talk whenever the other one caught up. It was great. It's kind of hard. Honestly, I applaud everyone who does a book read along every time or very often, because it's hard. Because when I get into books, I could just sit on a couch all day and read and not do anything else, and just read and finish it in one sitting. And I'm not waiting for anyone to catch up with me. I'm just finishing the book. So it's really hard, but it's really fun because you feel your own excitement as you get to like something important, and then you can feel it again once that other person gets there. It's just so like contagious to feel like, oh my God, did you see what happened? And it's even better when you have different opinions about it, because you can argue, and arguing is so fun, especially when it's about friendly arguing. That is great.
I don't blame you for that. I've had a couple of things because I didn't like the It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I haven't done it with people on Bookstagram, but people I used to work with, and they loved it, and I just didn't, and it caused so many like arguments about it.
That's why I say friendly arguing, because like I love the book. I think that it's a great story. I think it's important. I don't like what is being done with it about the drawing book and the movie and how it's being romanticized. I think that's not a good thing that's happening. Like, people need to keep their head on their shoulders and not, glorify all these stories, because after all, they're stories, but they still happen to other people. You're allowed not to like it. That's fine. Why didn't you like it? Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So the reason I didn't like it was because of the whole kind of how it was marketed. So I had seen it all over TikTok and Bookstagram before I even read it. I saw your Atlas Corrigan post that went crazy, and I was like, okay, yeah, this will be good. I'm not that sure, but I'll read it. And I read it in like 2 days, because it is readable. It's very easy reading. But for me, I struggled with the topic. I don't want to put any spoilers in, but kind of the, say, toxic relationship topics. And I just didn't. I couldn't get on board with the whole romanticizing of that. And then obviously, like you say, recently the stuff with the colouring book, and I think there's been some stuff about Colleen Hoover's personal life that people are like cancelling her for, but that has nothing to do with whether I like the book or not, and I think that can cause issues.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, when I argue about someone about a book, it's about what happens in the book. It's not about anything else around it. I liked the book, but I liked it as a story. I completely agree with with how it's marketed, it's not a good thing. But I can separate those two things.
Yeah.
I read November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and I think it was such a great story. Like, I think it was written so good. I blinked and then I was done, and it was so devastating, and I was so confused and so mad. And there were so many things in that book that I hated, like ideas that were presented, and I was like, what is wrong with this woman? Why would she write something like this? But the story is so good, and it kept me on the edge of my seat, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
The 1 star is not about anything else, but the fact that there were a lot of like inaccuracies or things that didn't add up by the end of the story. And I explained that in my review. That's why I think it's important to, like, if you're gonna give a review, you should explain why you didn't give it a full 5 stars, or however many stars you used to rate it. I give it 4 stars. I said this is a great story. It's like captivating. It's a mystery. It's confusing. It's got a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion. But I didn't like this, and I didn't like this, and I didn't like that. But I only refer to the story. Like, I can take a step back and understand that this is very toxic, you know, and it's not like this book is not to romanticize it or to make people want it, but to understand that it's a thing that happens. And if you're reading it, you know, properly, then you can say like, okay, if this is happening to someone, this is not a good thing.
So my biggest problem with it is so like I said to you, the girls at work were reading it, and they're all like 15 and reading it and like saying how much they like, and I was really concerned about the marketing of the romanticized right at the end when she just hands her baby over to him. I'm like, this is a man who's beaten you, who's nearly raped you, who's done all this horrible stuff, and you're just handing your kid over to him. Like, I'm not saying the kid shouldn't see her dad, but like, go with the kid, protect the kid. That really bothered me.
I know. I found that really confusing too. She kind of makes up for that little mistake. I don't know if that's what we should call it, in the second book, where there's a scene where Ryle asks to have the kid overnight, and she's like, nope, not until she can talk, so that she can say if anything happens. So she kind of addresses that a little bit, but it's still like, I agree, you know, but part of the beauty and the complexity of this book is that you'll never know what these, like, unless you've been in that position, which I wouldn't wish it on anyone, you will never know what that character is going through.
Exactly.
What's going through. So you can't, you know, you can have your opinions about it, and at the end of the day, it is just a book. But it's kind of like a window to someone else's life.
Exactly. Have you got any tips for Bookstagrammers starting out, or would you advise people just get into it as quick as possible?
Oh my God. I don't think I'm qualified enough to give tips. I think that whatever Instagram account you decide to run, whether it's for a small business or for books or for movie reviews or whatever, it's a lot of work. It's not all just like, oh my God, look at this cute little book, picture, post. That's not how it works at all. Anyone who tells you that is completely mistaken. It is a lot of work. You have to create content. You have to figure out what your people want, what your audience wants, not your people. You have to figure out if you're going to have a niche, if you're going to focus on something, if you're not going to focus on something, if you're going to be very open with your audience, if you're not going to be open with your audience. It's a lot of things to think about, but just do it. Who cares? Like, I started out and I didn't tell any of my friends. To this day, like, not a lot of people know. And when I first posted a reel where I was in it, I was like, oh my God, what if it goes viral and people find out that I have this account? And it's like, okay, what about it? You know, like, it's definitely nerve-wracking, but I think it's worth it. The community is so good. I think it's great.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Okay, so thank you so much. And I guess I'll speak to you soon.